Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the final session of day two of Virtually 2024. Just want to say thanks to Ronnie and Elaine for their great talks earlier. Up next, we have the fantastic Natalie Patrice Tucker with her talk, Unlocking Potential, the Power of Partnerships in Digital Accessibility. In this talk, Natalie will share insights gleaned from 2 decades of experience as a digital accessibility program lead. She'll navigate the challenges and opportunities inherent in establishing and nurturing successful partnerships and building successful programs. From engaging stakeholders to fostering a culture of accessibility, this presentation is going to equip you with actionable strategies to drive meaningful change within your organization. As ever, we are joined by my clear text who are providing live captions. You can access these using the bottom, the button at the bottom of Zoom, sorry, or I've just dropped a stream text link in the chat for a fully adjustable page of captions. Please do say hello to each other in the chat. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Just do make sure your chat settings are switched to everyone and not just panelists and hosts. Also, please do submit your questions for Natalie. I'll try and get through as many as I can with her at the end. This session is recorded, but yeah, we will be sending out videos at the end of the event. So yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Natalie, to kick things off.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Whew, okay. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I also want to say that I thank you for your patience and your partnership as I put this, bring you this presentation. Whew. Okay, so thank you. There are any number of ways that you could be spending your time, and I really just can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me. So I'm excited to explore the transformative power of partnership in digital accessibility with you today. We'll unlock the potential of the intersection of innovation and inclusivity through partnership. So just a bit about me, a little bit more than what Henry shared. I am Natalie Patrice Tucker, and for more than 2 decades, I have given my life to digital inclusion work. I have a deep commitment to a web that works for everyone. And from the early days as a web developer to consulting and leading digital accessibility initiatives, I've been committed to creating digital environments in all kinds of spaces, from e-commerce sites to mobile apps to IoT devices, and a wide range of organizations. I've gotten to partner with some extraordinary folks. And so thank you for letting me talk to you about some of the things that are important to me about this work and how we can make it stronger as a practice. So today we're going to dive into, really, like I said, the synergy between digital accessibility programs and Rianne Eisler's partnership model. So we're going to start by setting the stage for what the partnership model is. We'll contrast that with the domination model that's prevalent, and we'll sort of talk about what the building blocks are for building those kinds of partnerships. We'll look at some examples in the wild that have been successful, and then we'll talk about tools and strategies. So I don't need to say probably to this audience how urgent this this conversation is. We got to look at the states. There are 1.9 billion people around the world, according to the World Health Organization, who have some kind of disability. That includes 72% of the folks who are online, if we count their household, which is colloquial called the purple economy. It's not just a market, it's a multitude of voices and potentials for innovation. And we really miss out on that, on the opportunities inherent in that if we exclude folks with disabilities. When I think about the kinds of folks who inspire me, like Habana Garma, who is a deafblind lawyer, the first to graduate from Harvard Law School, and Stephen Hawkins, an incredible physicist. Think about the innovations that we would be losing out on, and the ideas and the ways of working. Think about the world as possible when everybody gets to contribute. And really, if we're being smart and thoughtful about it, uh, you know, we don't want to. We want to think about the business costs of inaccessibility. We've got things like lawsuits. Of course, everyone knows the example of Target's 2008 lawsuit, which required them to pay more than $6 million to settle a class action suit about the inaccessibility of their website. That's a classic example in our work. But the loss of revenue and lost reputation is huge. So where am I coming from when I talk about the partnership model? I'm bringing you this conversation based on, I've adopted a framework that's based on the partnership model that's been developed by Riane Eisler. Now, Riane Eisler is amazing. She's a 93-year-old renowned author, futurist, social scientist, and she's really known for groundbreaking work around cultural transformation and how to build systems that work for the people and the planet. Her seminal work is called The Chalice and the Blade, and it explores this cultural shift from domination to partnership models throughout history. And so I'm going to use her work to think about how we build these kinds of systems. So for a little bit of context, Riane Eisler's partnership model looks at the way we build systems along a continuum from domination models, which are prevalent and we can see around us today, where there are in groups and out groups, hierarchies of domination from that show up not only in the society around us, but in our businesses and our partnerships and in our families. Power over rather than power with. And power is maintained by force and fear and coercion. There's a lot of inequality inherent in those kinds of systems and the ways that those systems are brought together. And they're characterized by violence and abuse. So to contrast that, or to think about what's possible, how do we get to more of a caring economy, an economy that's efficient, that uses the full potential in all of us? How do we create a world really that works for everyone by harnessing the power of everyone's ideas? And inside of this partnership model, everyone matters in building systems. There are hierarchies of actualization, by which I mean, how do we ensure that folks can bring their best selves? These models are characterized by these ways of working, these families, these systems are characterized by transparency, flexibility, creativity, increases in liberty and expression, and equality, which is absolutely essential here. And really, when you look at it, what's what's valued and how those things are valued makes a big difference for each. So one of the things that Riane Eisler says is that if we want to shift from these sort of domination models to caring models, we really have to look at the patterns in the ways that we're doing things so that they're not unconscious. We can consciously move towards this new way of being. So I want to think about that. I want to just sort of lay that on top of, if you will, what we're doing in digital accessibility and how it's been and what's possible. So if we think about the way, the already always way of doing things, if you will, it really kind of looks at when we're building products or, and I'm particularly focused on building digital products here, but we're thinking about we want to make sure that you are serving, uh, you know, sort of checklist of folks. Do we have screeners rather than we're thinking about um, the ways that people are disabled rather than the conditions that disable them. You'll see in building these products, you'll find folks with not a lot of experience making decisions, making assumptions about what folks with disabilities need. You've got sort of checklist compliance as opposed to with the partnership model, we're looking at disabling environment. So how our products make it more or less possible for people to contribute and participate. We're thinking about an inclusive leadership so that the folks who are making decisions about how things are built reflect the folks that are going to be using them in the ways that are possible, and that we reach outside of ourselves to include folks with disabilities as we are thinking about what we're building and why, so we can get new perspectives, which allows us to have sort of deeper insights. We get more feedback, and there's lots of opportunities for learning and growing. There's not a place to get to. We're always expanding what's possible. And so in doing that, you'll find, there are no, it can't be done alone. Even if you're building a program and you are the sole person tasked with thinking about digital accessibility in your organization, in order to make that possible, you'll need to expand your reach. We can't do this in islands. Silos are not going to make this happen. It sort of takes a village, if you will. Okay, what are those building blocks that I'm talking about? Well, we want to make sure that we got a shared vision about what we're doing so that uh, we can talk about what we're doing and work together towards that. We don't have competing ideas about where we're going and how we're going with that, so that you know what the folks who are using your products need, and rather than assuming. And you can begin to incorporate those needs as you're building your products, that you have real authentic engagement. Are people impacted by your products involved in the ways you think about your roadmaps? And how can folks meaningfully contribute to that work, formally and informally? We want to look at also, we want to look at making sure that these processes are collaborative, and that's distinctly different from the domination model. But collaborative processes look like co-design, look like working together and changing our assumptions based on what we actually find out. and making those insights make a difference in our products. And we've got to listen to what's needed. So we're sort of that our roadmap includes what's wanted and needed most. And that on both sides, we're building capacity so that the folks who are who we're working with understand where our where we're going, as well as we understand what more and more deeply as things change, as the needs change, what folks knows need. That looks like all kinds of things. That looks like doing training back and forth. That looks like being in conversation and communication with folks. And when I'm talking about these processes, I want you to see them as not only possible inside of your organization, but outside of your organization as well. We'll be kind of focusing on external partnerships a little bit, but these principles and the ways of these building blocks matter just as much with the folks that we're working with inside of our organizations who aren't who don't have a background in digital accessibility. We need to think about resource sharing. We need to, if we're real partners, work together in ways that help both folks, and sort of both sides of the coin or all sides of the coin. Like I said, we're always learning, we're always growing, and failure doesn't stop us from moving forward. And that we're accountable for what we say we're doing and how we're doing it. Absolutely. And as much as there are incredible opportunities, there are deep, deep challenges to actualizing this work, from operational challenges, cultural challenges, and domain challenges. But operational changes is, for example, thinking about how we include what we think about in terms of the hierarchies. How do we overcome the traditional hierarchies to be able to have those collaborative conversations, difficult conversations sometimes, when they inherently in things like user research and there's a imbalance of power, and so we really have to think about how we're allocating resources between partners so that there is room for equity. How can we talk to our partners, from different places? We have to look at the real imbalances in power between the already always. As we move into this partnership model, we understand that we will be valuing things that haven't always been valued. And one of the ways that we reinforce our commitment is how we allocate resources. And thinking about scale, partnership is going to look like one thing if you have a very small user base, or if you are just beginning to develop your digital products, then it will, at the scale of millions and potentially billions of users. And the complexities of gathering and listening to, incorporating, and responding to the kinds of feedback, ensuring that loop stays intact is an enormous challenge. We got to think about, how do we maintain this, right? Once you get started, it's all well and good until you hit a roadblock. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know who to ask for help. How do we maintain these improvements in the face of in the face of failure? And And you're always going to be, there's always going to be a juggling act, balancing perspectives from all of the different stakeholders. You can't, we're not going to, uh, sort of change the world overnight. But the ways that we get to do that is by rising to the challenge of balancing these diverse perspectives. And one of the things that we're not good at, I think, as human beings, but also we don't have a lot of real examples and frameworks for navigating as organizations is conflict. What do we how what does it look like when we need to be called in by our partners because of problematic behavior or problematic releases or um, what does that look like? What does that look what does it look like to have to call out our partners in public about when our agreements aren't being met or that sort of thing? How do we what does accountability look like inside of these? Uh, Partnerships to and how do we manage that um, we are hearing the voices of the folks impacted, um, the- having one representative from one community does not a partnership make for us, although it can provide valuable insights. It's really important to uh, think about what you're not thinking about, or begin to see what you're not seeing. Who do you think isn't using your product? Who do you think you can't wouldn't consider yourself partnering with? Those are the folks inside of your organization and outside of your organization where the most powerful and surprising kinds of uh, partnerships and conversations get to happen in this space. Um, I want to, yes. So as we, sort of shift into this paradigm, we are going to be thinking about how do we know our challenges intimately. How do we use those partnerships for the opportunities for innovation that they present to us? Because we know that we're there's a there's a possibility of increasing efficiency. For example, um, shorter cycles in understanding our problem, shorter feedback cycles, not having to, you know, one of the statistics I recently saw was that 64% of um, accessibility issues happen at the stage of design. If we can, get to where accessibility is baked in to the ways we're thinking about our products from the very beginning, we actually save room for ourselves uh, to do innovative things with our product because we're not using them to remediate issues. Think about how we can. Another opportunity is, of course, the enhanced service delivery. So the experience of using our products becomes uh, more easy and intuitive, thoughtful. And inside of that, we get to see new avenues and opportunities for our products in new markets, in new ways of using them. So new folks are attracted to our products, or old folks who were using our using things less become more engaged, as they understand that these products work for them. We have the opportunities. Everyone knows that we're moving into more and more legislation and litigation around accessibility. And thank goodness for that, really. Whatever it takes to get us to a world where we're actually working together and building products that are thoughtfully designed, great. And um, how about what's possible inside of getting outside of the sort of fight or flight response to accessibility, where uh, there's um, there are green fields, like whole areas of innovation that we get to explore inside of working with especially marginalized communities. The ideas, the opportunities are boundless. And that community engagement also, thankfully, translates to things like brand loyalty and reputation enhancements. Okay, so um, yes, make sure that I am all right. Okay. Now we want to talk about what it's going to take to get us there, right? To how to, to leverage these sort of collective expertise and reduce redundancies and ensure efficiencies. What are some of the strategies that make that possible? We want to think about the uh, in order to move towards a more sort of inclusive partnership model. I think that we need to think about it in 4 ways, sort of 4 strategies for partnership that really work. By starting small, we emphasize, first of all, starting small, think big. So absolutely, I'm doing this work because I'm committed to a web that works for everyone, no holds barred, no kidding. And that's what gets me going in the morning. And you know, it takes something to get there. And that something is incremental changes, right? Hearts and minds. Sometimes, so that often in the beginning, the bridges that most need to be built are the relationships inside of the organization, building building empathy, training, capacity building, so that we're in a space to have more informed conversations and respectful conversations with our partners outside of the organization. Now, the second strategy is about what we're looking at. So that's measure what we value. And what I mean by that is, how do we implement metrics that kind of reflect the values of accessibility and inclusion? We live in a world and we are driven by business concerns. As we're building our products, we're thinking about markets and things like ROI as we uh, uh, decide what features to include, what to remove. So implementing metrics that reflect the values of accessibility and inclusion is going to be really important. It's not just about compliance. Compliance is important. And um, we want to make sure that we also include user engagement and satisfaction in the ways that we think about our products and what success is. Especially where it concerns folks with disabilities, right? Are we actually aware of how folks are using it and the experience of that, so that we can um, impact those conversations. Third, which goes hand in hand with that, is the value of what we measure. We want to ensure that the metrics that we're tracking um, are integrated into the ways decision making is made, right? Influencing how we develop product, how we, uh, include folks in the conversation. And lastly, the last strategy is we need to be able to walk our talk. And what that means is that we demonstrate our commitment through our actions, not just our words, right? So that we can be held accountable for our inclusive practices. Uh, and that includes involving people with disabilities in the development process, and holding the organizations accountable for their commitments around accessibility. So, like I said, if we're starting small, we have to celebrate our wins where we find them. We really do. It gets so easy to um to see the big picture of what is possible, and how far there is to go to get there, um, and be discouraged. And so we want to make sure that we celebrate every single victory. And the converse of that is that we need to learn from every single setback. That continuous learning is one of the things that we've identified as a, core piece of this new model. And if uh, we're not looking at how we win as well as how we fail, then we'll just sort of go back into the way that things already always have been, without creating what we say we're committed to. So I really, one of the things, examples that love the most inside of the second strategy, measure what we value, is the accessibility usability scale that was developed by Fable Tech Labs as a measure of the user satisfaction of people with disabilities who use assistive technology on with digital products. And that involves having folks with disabilities who use assistive technology fill out a very simple survey and provide information about that, sort of on a scale of 1 to 10, or 1 to 100, that can be quantified. And with 100 being, I've never been so, satisfied with product, and of course, 1 being there are some real opportunities for growth. And so in building accessibility programs, when I'm thinking about how we are measuring what we're doing, I'm looking at, and not only are we meeting regulatory requirements, are we not only uh, hitting, WCAG 2.1, 2.2, level AA or better, and where we are with that, but also what the experience of using our product is over time. So maintaining you can set whatever you want. I've in the past set 76 as the 76 score or better, um, uh, as the metric, so that like we're always moving towards that partnership model. If we're not getting the signals that we want, then we need to dive deeper, uh, and have the conversations that will make the difference for that. So we want to, in terms of valuing what we measure, we some of the tools that we'll need to incorporate include things like rewarding accessibility expertise all along the career framework. If your organization has a career framework, um, then all kinds of folks should be being rewarded for what they know and what they contribute as it relates to this domain. That's not just developers, but marketers and, you know, everyone. We want to ensure that we are supporting the organizations and the communities that we're learning from financially, especially given the power imbalances, right? Right? We know that there are something, I think it's 4 times more folks with disabilities who are unemployed than who are employed, or, without disabilities. You know, organizations and community-based organizations and nonprofits that work with people with disabilities of all kinds are often under-resourced. Um, and if folks are, you know, threatened with survival, they're not going to have as much uh, room to share in their insights. How do we facilitate making it more and more possible for things to, or for folks to contribute? And then, when we talk about walk your talk, that looks like committing to real accountability, um, which can sometimes be a dirty word. And if we're actually inside of this partnership model, then accountability is an opportunity for continuous learning. So, you know, not only are we joining organizations like the Valuable 500 and making commitments, but when we fail in those commitments, we're able to be uh, called in and supported in changing and making a difference. We and that also means including people with disabilities, not just in user research, but on our production teams and on our marketing teams and in our boardrooms and those sorts of things. The more voices in the conversation, the better, to my mind. All right, so now we get a few minutes to talk about some of the fun um, opportunity or partnerships that and then how they relate to this model. These are just a few. There's lots of others that I could pull up, and I'm hoping that when we get to talk to each other, that you'll share some of yours. But these are just a few that I've seen. So we're looking at what these partnerships are and the ways that they've been impactful, and the patterns, or what aspects of the partnership model is on view, if you will. So we want to consider uh, Microsoft's Xbox adaptive controller. It was this whole initiative really was a testament to what is possible inside of the partnership model. Microsoft partnered with uh, organizations like Able Gamers Charity and Special Effect, um, among others, to develop this product and make sure that it met the diverse needs in the gaming community for folks with mobility concerns, a range of accessibility concerns, but in particular mobility considerations. And the impact that this has had is that there's more folks uh, who are able to participate in gaming. Gamers with disabilities have been being more empowered to be a part of the larger community of gamers, and it raised the standards, and it's sort of set a new bar for what was possible in the industry, really. So what worked? Well, we see a couple of things. the inclusive leadership, like I said, working with able gamers, working with these partners, um, getting their feedback back closely along every step of the way, ensure that in the end, not only did Microsoft, the Xbox team have a product they could be proud of, but gamers were really excited about it, and we're using it, and that work continues. Right, there's to this day, um, continuous improvement, um, continu- continuous feedback loop between disabled gamers and the larger industry, one, but also with the Xbox team. All right. This is an older one, but I think it's still very relevant. So we're looking at Verizon Meeting and their commitment to closed captioning and other features across their platforms to ensure that um, so Verizon Media and the National Association for the Deaf collaborated on closed captioning and other features to make sure that everyone can engage with content. This was a multi-year effort, and you know, it really showed that Verizon Media recognized the importance of accessible media in partnering with National Association for the Deaf, NAD, colloquially, and they've been they were pivotal in pushing. NAD was pivotal in pushing for the widespread implementation of these features, ensuring that folks, uh, deaf and hard of hearing folks, can fully engage with online content. And when we think about, you know, here in this case, what worked? What were the patterns that worked? Well, Verizon saw its own product as a disabling um, force in this community. So engage them collaboratively to advocate for what's possible and push the needle. Uh, so and still um there's always east to go, and there's continued community engagement. What that impact has been, as you can see across uh, Verizon Media's content platforms, there's been more accessibility for deaf and hard of hearing folks, but there's also been a increased awareness around compliance and what that looks like and how to ensure that folks, you know, are are part of the conversation. And of course, brand, enhancing the brand and viewer experience with Verizon Media's platform. And I think that's another thing that you'll see across these, is that there's one of the reasons why they're included is because there's lots of conversation about uh, how these partnerships were groundbreaking and how important they are and were. Next, we'll talk about a little bit about Apple and Gallaudet. That I think this is so cool. So Apple um, it gives every some years ago, I want to say a few years ago, started giving it gave all the faculty at Gallaudet and every incoming class at Gallaudet University, which is a school for deaf and hard of hearing folks here in the States, based in Washington, D.C., providing all of those students with um, and faculty with iPads, MacBooks, and other sort of cutting edge Apple products that were really tailored to their needs, and uh, with features specifically designed to support sign language usage. Gallaudet has a bilingual teaching model where they teach both in English and in American Sign Language, ASL. Um, and so it's ensuring that not just that a wider variety of folks could participate and thrive. So, the impact of this collaboration has really been profound. Um, one of the things that uh, one of the things that I read, that one of the folks at Gallaudet University said about this partnership was that it allow them to integrate accessibility into every aspect of education. Um, so when we're looking at what are the patterns that made this so impactful? Shared leadership from the very, very top at Apple and Gallaudet working together to ensure that students have what they need, and that Apple also gets to learn from uh, and incorporate their learnings into how they're building their products so that they can be more and more useful, and they understand for for this community in this space what's needed. There's a mutual respect, there's balanced decision making. You can really see it by the way they talk about their partnership. Um, and 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 there's this shared capacity building on both sides. So, you know, both sides benefiting from the support and collaboration. And the impact, of course, it has been, like I said, profound. Um, it tremendously increased technology access for deaf and hard of hearing folks. Um, eh, the educational outcomes so far have been very, very promising. And it, it it adds to this conversation about what's wanted and needed and necessary uh, in terms of accessibility in tech development, but also in the education space. Mhm. Okay. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me. I want to wrap up by thinking about what's possible inside of this new model for, um, you know, for building accessibility programs. Adopting Ryan Eisler's partnership model can could be a roadmap to creating more and inclusive and effective digital environments, digital products. We, in order to do so, we really have to rethink the traditional approaches to how we think about and where digital accessibility is really woven into the fabric of our development process by using, the social model of disability, where the things that we are building, we understand the potential for the things that we're building to disable our communities, that their shared leadership in the decision making for what gets built and when and how. There's shared advocacy. We're getting the feedback, we're taking the feedback, we're giving the feedback back about, and there's a continuous improvement and learning loop where failures don't have to stop us. And the strategies that make that possible: start small, think big. Um, Rome isn't built in a day. Every little piece counts, whether that means ensuring that there are folks with disabilities on your teams, or educating the folks that you are working with uh, about who your customers are with disabilities. Measure what we value. Make sure that we're including folk the impacts and the harms, um, and then conversely, the experience of folks with disabilities uh, with our products and services. We got to, in order to do that, we really have to value what we measure. Put our money where our mouth is, or our mouth where our money is, however that metaphor goes, and ensure that we're um, resourcing and acknowledging. We need to walk our talk, do what we say, and say what we're going to do. And this conversation that we're having today, it really just could not be possible without the incredible partnerships that I've had the opportunity to engage in over my career. There's way too many to sort of say them all at once, but uh, notable folks that I've gotten to work with that I highly encourage you partnering with our studio exception in the UK, Fable Tech Labs in Canada, Barrier Break, uh, an accessibility consultancy based out of India, the Royal National Institute for the Blind, also in the UK, and accidental uh, accessibility or accidental ally, a disability inclusion organization, employment organization in the US. And don't let this be the end of our conversation. I know I've gone a little bit over, but I hope that you will stay in touch, and I hope that we have the opportunity to talk a bit. If you have any questions, let me know. Or if you want to talk about it, like what are some examples of partnership and this new partnership model uh, that you've seen?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. Fantastic talking there. Fascinating to see that partnership model. I mean, if anything, it really does kind of highlight the sheer amount of work kind of accessibility practitioners have to do just to kind of justify what they're doing and get the word out about what they're doing, kind of outside of actually doing the job of making products and services accessible to everyone. It's always blows my mind. If anyone has any questions, please do drop them either in the chat or the Q&A. We've probably got time for one or two. So Natalie, kind of, your talk really kind of highlighted, kind of, the real impact you can have when you kind of really engage with kind of the communities that you're serving. I mean, kind of, have you found, with organizations, kind of, there's always like a kind of race for organizations to adopt emerging tech. Kind of, we've seen that with AI, for example. Do you think kind of this kind of hampers accessibility efforts, or do you think that's an opportunity to form more partnerships around kind of, implementing this emerging tech and kind of getting that insight from the start?
I do think that there's a lot of opportunity. I think, number one, if nothing else, it's driving a lot of conversation, and the more the better. I think I have seen that folks are really curious about how AI can be supportive inside of this domain, and I'm encouraged by that. I think uh, I think it's clear that even in the ways that we've done accessibility in the past, we haven't sort of mined the full potential, our full human potential. And since we are the people who are building the AI, you know, it's going to be hard for some time to trust that AI. Um, adequately speaks to and for the needs of marginalized communities. Uh, so I'll I'm cautiously excited about what's possible, but really keeping an eye on sort of how models are being trained and by whom, and how folks are using, um, these emerging technologies. I don't think we're ever going to pull the people out of this process.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Sweet. We had another question around AI, but I think you may have just answered that. But yeah, no, if that's kind of it for the questions. I'd like to say huge thanks, Natalie. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic having you present. We hope everyone that tuned in enjoyed the presentation, and yeah, if anyone thinks of any more questions, then yeah, please do get in touch with Natalie. We are back
Absolutely.
tomorrow for another 3 fantastic talks. There is still time to sign up, so yeah, so please do head on over to our Eventbrite page. I know there's lots going on tomorrow with Global Accessibility Awareness Day. However, anyone that does sign up to all the talks will get the recordings sent to them. So yeah, it's still very much worth signing up. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you tomorrow. Thanks again, Natalie.
Thanks. Have a great day.